on Y News. The Sugar Regulatory Administration says market prices and supply of sugar to begin normalizing next week. The Department of Health remains undecided on whether to continue its contract on the creation of barangay health stations across the country. And the Manila International Airport Authority is set to replace old passenger boarding bridges at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport Terminal 1. Y News begins now.
From the UNTV News and Rescue Command Center in Quezon City, this is Y News.
The Sugar Regulatory Administration is confident that market prices and supply of sugar will begin to normalize next week. Here's why from Monokson.
Imported sugar from Thailand by some manufacturers will start arriving next week. The Sugar Regulatory Administration says once the additional stocks are delivered, sugar supply and its prices will go back to normal.
Ang mangyari kasi malaki yung volume, paunti-unti ito sa umpisa ng first week ng July may parating na. Kasi hindi sabay-sabay yung pag-apply ng mga sugar traders.
The Department of Trade and Industry earlier reported rising prices of raw and refined sugar of up to 10 pesos each kilogram in local market due to low supply. The SRA notes local sugar production declined by 15% this month compared to the same period last year. Just as the demand rose after drinks sweetened by high fructose corn syrup were taxed 12 pesos per liter under the tax reform for acceleration and inclusion or train law. Bread and pastry makers previously said they are mulling over increasing the prices of pandesal and tasty, but the SRA believes this is no longer necessary. The agency also says the importation of 200,000 metric tons of sugar is less likely to affect local producers, since this is only meant to address the drop in supply. The SRA also clarifies that there is enough supply of sugar in the country following the cease in operation of 10 refineries.
Ibig sabihin yun ng sara, nag-end na ang season dong particular district na yun. It's not for anything. Nag-end na ang milling season. So yung mga naiiwan na mga umaandar pang ng mga refinery, hindi pa nag-end ang season nila at saka mayroon pa silang asukal na rene-refine.
Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Quezon City government finds 2 schools following a surprise inspection conducted by the local health department earlier. Grace Casin tells us why.
The Quezon City Health Department strictly enforces the Ordinance Number 2579 or the policy against selling junk food and sugar drinks in schools. That is why it penalized the Lagro High School and Pasong Tamo Elementary School after city officials found in a surprise inspection earlier some Tetra Pak juices, biscuits with filling, banana cue, and some junk foods in its cafeterias. The schools are ordered to pay 1,000 pesos for violating the ordinance, but teachers insist the ordinance was not properly explained to them.
Meron din kaming mga gusto pang tanungin dito sa mga binigay sa amin na listahan, pati yung mga computation doon.
Ang sinasabi ng ordinansa malinaw, absolute po talaga walang sugary drinks o junk food na makikita sa mga paaralan.
City Health Officer Dr. Verdades Lingas says the ordinance aims to lower the risks of diabetes and hypertension among students, citing study on increasing number of children contracting diseases due to high sugar intake. Other foods banned in school canteens include all kinds of sweetened beverages, donut, and even processed foods like hot dog, meatloaf, corned beef, and greasy food items such as French fries. Additionally, condiments such as soy sauce and fish sauce are not allowed on dining tables. Schools are also mandated to maintain their canteen clean.
Sana simulan na natin ngayon yung tamang pagpapabaon sa ating mga bata, sa ating mga anak.
Students, however, expressed positive response on this ordinance.
Okay lang po yun kasi ginagawa po tayo kaming healthy.
Para po makapag-aral po kami mabuti.
The ordinance also prohibits the selling of aforementioned food items outside the school premises. Violators will be penalized 1,000 pesos for first offense, 2,000 pesos for second, and 5,000 for third offense and possible closure of school canteen. Quezon City Health Department vows to continue making rounds in schools in Quezon City to ensure their compliance. Grace Casit, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Department of Health remains undecided whether or not it would continue its contract on the creation of barangay health stations across the country. Ray Pelayo explains why.
The fate of the Health Department's project to put up barangay health stations remains uncertain amid the investigation of the alleged irregularities in its procurement process. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III says the continuation of the project will depend on the outcome of the ongoing probe by the Commission on Audit and the Office of the Ombudsman over surrounding issues of irregularities. Duque admits lapses on the side of the government when it comes to the locations for VHS units, especially in elementary schools across the country.
So titingnan nila yung mga naitayong mga VHS sa mga sinabing tinayuan, kung ito ba'y kompleto, ano ba ang estado nitong mga VHS na to.
Meanwhile, the project's contractor, J. Bros, has petitioned DOH to the Construction Industry Arbitration Commission to pay for the erected units. According to the firm's director for operations, Attorney Julian Jorge, they have already constructed 250 units of VHS and they should receive payments from the government. However, Duque disapproved such claim, saying there are only 8 units with completed documents and the DOH cannot release payment with only such number.
Batay sa amin validation, parang 270 lang ang kompleto, pero sa 270 parang wawalo lang ang may kompletong dokumento sa ngayon.
Kaya nga progress billing. So kung hindi natatapos namin, yun yung babayaran. Ngayon, yung sinasabi na 8 lang na natapos na kompletong dokumento, nasaan yung sulat nila na nagsasabing sinabihan nila kami na 8 yan?
The contractor says it is still willing to carry on with the phase 2 of the project if DOH will cooperate. Duque admits it would be regretful if the project would be aborted because it would augment the shortage of health services, especially in far-flung communities in the country. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, San Juan City.
The Department of Environment and Natural Resources plans to prohibit fishing in some parts of Laguna Lake. Mai Bermudez explains why.
The Laguna Lake Development Authority, or LLDA, recently ordered the closure of 2 construction companies for violating environmental laws. In line with this, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, inspected earlier the reclaimed area of the Laguna Lake in Barangay Calzada, Taguig City to determine the effects of illegal reclamation in the area. The reclaimed area is 47 hectares wide. Environment Secretary Roy Simatu says they plan to prohibit fishing in some parts of the lake near the area, noting water there might be contaminated.
Sa mga may fish pen, so hold on muna hanggat di natin malinisan yung tubig.
The Secretary orders the Regional Director of the DENR in Metro Manila to ensure the quality of water in reclaimed area follows the standard. The DENR discovered in the inspection that many homes improperly disposed their waste. The LLDA have soil in the area examined for the rehabilitation. Authorities will continue monitoring the quality of water to determine the effects of waste being disposed there. LLDA General Manager Jaime Medina notes the improper disposal of waste affects the livelihood of residents in the area.
Halos 50% po ng supply ng isda sa Metro Manila ay nanggagaling po sa Laguna Lake. At gusto naman ho nating masigurado na yan ay ligtas para po sa ating mga kababayan.
Mai Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Interagency Council for Traffic, or IAC, demolishes some stalls on the sidewalks of the Dapitan Market today. Monokson tells us why.
Ito lang ang hanap buhay namin. Tapos hindi kami makakatinda. Ang panawagan namin, tulungan kami ni Pangulo na pagbigyan kami namang pagkakataon pa na hindi ganitong biglaan po.
This is the plea for help of vendor Nati Garcia after the men of the Interagency Council on Traffic, or IAC, demolishes her stall on the sidewalk of the Dapitan Arcade. Another vendor, Brenda Lanuza, had no other choice but to cry as IAC dismantles her makeshift home on the sidewalk.
Tulungan niyo naman yung gabi.
The agency explains the stalls obstruct pedestrians and passing vehicles along the stretch of Dapitan and Canlaon in Manila.
Hindi po kontra ang IAC sa paghahanap buhay ng mga kapatid natin. Ang kontra po kami, yung pagsakop nila sa pedestrian, sa sidewalk, na dapat po yung mga tao nakakalakad.
The vendors could not resist as they have no documents proving they're allowed to operate there. They are saying the barangay allowed them sell on the sidewalk. But officials reason out they allow the vendors only during the bare months as they sell decorations.
Automatic, alam nila pagdating ng January, tanggal sila. Ayun ang ano. So, pinadala naman ng sulat, galing sa barangay, pinadalan, which is last week pa na anytime magkakabaklasan. Siguro hindi nila naintindihan ng mga tao or baka sinabi nila na baka hindi totoo yung gano'n.
Despite this, IAC insists on the illegality of what the vendors were doing, banning them from returning to the sidewalks. Vendors selling their products on the sidewalk of the Dapitan Arcade have no other choice but to transfer their stalls. However, the affected residents have no other place to transfer. That's why they're calling on President Rodrigo Duterte to designate a relocation area for them so they could still continue their livelihood. The Dapitan and Canlaon Street are part of the Mabuhay Lane. It's an alternate route for motorists during heavy traffic going to Manila and back to Quezon City. Mon Hocson, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Passengers in the Ninoy Aquino International Airport Terminal 1 will soon be treated to more modern bridges as they board or disembark their flights. Joan Nano tells us why.
Decades-old passenger boarding bridges at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport will soon be replaced with new and modern ones, according to the Manila International Airport Authority. MIAA General Manager Eddie Monreal says 9 modern aero bridges will be opened at the NAIA Terminal 1, replacing the rickety ones to further improve their service and for the safety and convenience of air travelers. The passenger boarding bridges connects the airport walkway directly to the aircraft. Monreal adds the new bridges will be made of glass, air-conditioned, and equipped with CCTV cameras. He notes the old aero bridges have been in use since 1970s, so it is high time to replace those.
That's more than 30 plus years. Tapos madalas na rin minsan madalas na rin nagbabagdan yung iba-ibang mga bridge natin at nakakaroon ng pag-aantala sa pagdating at pag-alis ng mga pasahero.
Monreal says the 9 units is just part of the Phase 1 and 11 more are expected to be delivered from China next year. The project cost about 300 million pesos. Meanwhile, MIAA also appeals for more time from Congress to implement the proposed terminal assignment to decongest NAIA. The agency explains they will not be able to meet the August deadline initially set by House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez as they are still planning to renovate Terminal 2.
Pagawa ho tayo at nirenovate natin ang Terminal 2, gagawin ho yan in phases kasi hindi pwede natin i-shut down kasi siyempre may operations ho tayo. So mababawasan lalo ang capacity ng Terminal 2 which will definitely affect the usability of the terminals.
Monreal estimates the rehabilitation to take more than a year. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
Song composers will benefit a lot from Dr. Musico Mondel Rosario's new book. Leslie Longbowen tells us why.
Well known for being strict and snub.
Ay, nako, ang babait nitong katabi ko.
Veteran songwriter Doc Mondel Rosario is a terror among composers, joining a Song of Praise or ASAP competition on UNTV every Sunday.
Kung handa na kayo lumaban, handa na akong mag-opera.
However, Dr. Musico is widely thanked for his constructive criticisms that contribute a lot to the song and songwriter's improvement. Fortunately, Doc Mon is generous to share these songwriting lessons and advices, especially to new composers, in a book called Supladong Aklat.
Marami rin doon experiences ko from joining songwriting competitions. Alam yan, yung mga competition, heartbreaking yan eh. Maraming lessons talaga sa pagsali sa songwriting competitions. Yun ang kinumpile ko.
Here you can also find the 6 steps technique to songwriting, which he formulated out of years of experience.
Being a person from the scientific field, kasi nga ako'y graduate ng medicine, sabi ko, gagawa nga ako ng isang scientific method dito. Di ba? So, i-apply ko siya sa art.
The supladong aklat ebook is available at www.monderosario.com. You may also enroll in the course's premium package for a chance to have a one-on-one coaching with Doc Mon. Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Up next on Y News. The Philippine National Police relieves 3 of its personnel caught extorting money and posing as PDEA agents. And senators seek to increase local government funds to effectively implement campaign against crimes and illegal drugs. And thank you for keeping me company on the first part of Y News. More reasons behind the stories with Angelo Castro III and William Thio after this quick break. I'm Darlene Basingan. Good evening.
Welcome back to Y News. We pick up from where Darlene Basingan left off. I'm Angelo Castro III, and here are the headlines. Social weather station survey shows majority of Filipinos not aware of federalism being espoused by President Rodrigo Duterte. Malacanang believes the Catholic Church is not behind the alleged destabilization plot against President Rodrigo Duterte. And the Department of the Interior and Local Government assures no whitewash in probe over Samar misencounter. Good evening. Communist Party of the Philippines will no longer negotiate peace with the administration of President Rodrigo Duterte. CPP founder Jose Maria Sison made a surprise announcement in a statement ordering its political wing National Democratic Front to abandon peace talks with the government headed by Duterte. Sison also said they will now participate in the Oust Duterte movement and prepare to negotiate with the next regime. In response, President Duterte says he sees no problem in continuing with the war as long as the Filipinos are aware that the CPP first abandoned the negotiation efforts.
If they are not willing to talk to me, that's fine. Wala akong problema, so we continue with the war. And we have been there for 50 years. Ano ba naman ang dagdagan natin ng 30 years? So, sige. So, basta alam ng Pilipino na gano'n ang nangyayari.
Majority of Filipinos are seemingly not aware of federalism being espoused by President Rodrigo Duterte based on a new survey released by the social weather stations. Mai Bermudez tells us why.
The UNTV News and Rescue team made rounds in Padre Fowler Street in Manila today to ask Filipinos how well aware they are of the proposed shift to federalism. But most of the persons we talked to admit they have no knowledge of the issue.
Wala pa akong idea dyan eh. Ang federalism, siguro yung federalism. Oh my God, bakit ako?
This somewhat reflects the new survey of the social weather stations showing low public awareness of federalism, with only 1 out of 4 Filipinos being aware of it. The survey conducted on March 23 to 27, 2018 to 1,200 respondents nationwide shows that 25% of Filipino adults have been aware of the federal system and 75% only knew about it upon answering the survey. The polls released on Thursday also shows that 37% agree with federal system, 29% disagree, while 34% are undecided. Awareness was highest in Mindanao at 37%, followed by Metro Manila at 28%, Visayas at 22%, and Balance Luzon at 20%. Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque says, with the survey results, the government need to exert more effort in informing the public of the proposed new government system.
Well, apparently, the information drive is not enough. We'll need to work harder, given that the shift to federalism is a cornerstone of the Duterte administration.
Consultative committee members also appealed to the media to help inform the public on the proposed shift to federalism. Committee member Attorney Susan Ordinario says regional consultations are also important to boost information drive.
It's like an enlightenment for all of them. And it's very encouraging for us because we now know that with a little more effort on our part to reach out to the public, I think we will be able to really convey the message.
May Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Malacanang believes the Catholic Church is not behind the alleged destabilization plot against President Rodrigo Duterte. Meanwhile, a senator calls the planned dialogue of Malacanang with various religious groups just a gimmick. Here's why from Rosalie Cos.
Administration ally Boy Sison recently accused the Catholic Church of being behind the alleged destabilization plot against President Rodrigo Duterte. But spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque himself believes otherwise. Roque notes he needs to brief Sison on the standard operating procedures of Malacanang in providing statements to the public.
Hindi yun ang iniisip ng government na disturb efforts yung ginagawa ng simbahan?
Hindi po. In the first place, kampante po ang presidente sa kanyang pananampalataya, kampante ang simbahan sa kanilang mission sa bayang ito. Ang ninanais lang natin para yung dalawang institusyon ay makapagsilbi na mas mabuti para sa ating lipunan.
Sison is one of the members of the committee created by the president to talk to the Catholic Church and other religious denominations. The move aims to resolve the tension between the two sides, particularly the president's criticism of the church for 2 years now. Aside from this, the dialogue might also tackle the abuse of some Catholic priests of minors, in which the president himself claims to have been a victim as well. Meanwhile, Roque explains Duterte might not be able to attend the short-notice invitation of the papal nuncio tomorrow. Instead, he will be represented by a 4-man panel. The president also appointed as member of team Cabinet Secretary June Evasco.
I suppose his contribution is because he's an ex-priest himself, and is familiar with the dogma of the Catholic Church.
But Senator Antonio Trillanes believes the palace is just diverting the issue away from the fact that the president disrespected Filipino faithfuls. He insists the freedom of expression of the president is not the issue. He also thanks the dialogue of Malacanang with religious leaders will not appease offended Filipinos.
Hindi po ito ma-address dahil itong dialogue na to ay gimmick lang ng mga propagandista ng Malacanang para pahupain yung galit ng tao.
He's had nothing good to say about the president. I think the feeling naman is mutual. So no love lost there.
Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
President Rodrigo Duterte refuses to apologize over his controversial statements against the teachings of the Catholic Church, particularly the original sin. The president made the statement earlier when he was speaking to the media at the 25th Annual National Convention of the Vice Mayors League of the Philippines in Panglao, Bohol. Critics previously urged Duterte to apologize for his rants against certain religious beliefs.
I will not do that, definitely. Not in a million years. You know, God is personal. It is not formed by textbooks. So, if you use God as a transmission sa ninyo, other sectors of society, then you invite criticism. If you use it as a transmission of messages, you are up to also be on the receiving end.
The Department of the Interior and Local Government allays fears of possible whitewash in the ongoing investigation on the deadly misencounter between soldiers and policemen in Santa Rita, Samar. Victor Cosare explains why.
Interior and Local Government Secretary Eduardo Año assures that persons responsible in the bloody misencounter in Samar will face appropriate charges. Año also vows no cover-up in their ongoing investigation and that they will implement measures to ensure no recurrence of similar incident.
We will institute measures to prevent the occurrence of a similar incident in the future. and identify the responsible commanders why this missing counter happened.
On Wednesday, members of the Board of Inquiry of the Philippine National Police and Special Investigation Task Group inspected the area in Santa Rita where policemen and soldiers exchanged fire. Surviving policemen also accompanied the group to reenact and provide details on the incident. Initial investigation shows that the nearest soldiers who fired against the policemen was situated around 12 to 13 meters away based on the recovered bullet shells.
Hindi na ganun yung original na itsura nung pwesto or yung level ng visibility. May part na medyo mare-recognize mo, may mga parts kung saan na-recover yung mga shells ay medyo hindi.
PO1 Arafat Aba, one of the misencounter survivors, says the military should have been able to identify them as they were wearing uniforms.
Sobrang lapit lang. Diyan kami nakapuesto bago magsimula yung putukan. Imposible yun na hindi kami makilala. Kasi yung iba, yung bandolier may nakalagay na pulis.
Sumisigaw ako na parang pangtakot na lang din sa kabila na forward! Forward! Putok! 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 Walang nang aalis. Dito lang. Kasi pag umalis kami doon, papagbakan lang kami. Parang inoffer lang yung mga sarili namin para patayin.
Secretary Anyo believes such incidents should have been avoided with all the modern devices that the armed forces are using on the ground.
Hindi dapat nangyayari yung mga ganitong insidente. Sa dami ng ating technology, communication gadgets.
Meanwhile, kin of policemen slain in Samar misencounter are set to receive 500,000 pesos cash assistance from President Rodrigo Duterte. This is apart from the burial assistance, monthly pension, and livelihood offered to the spouses of the victims, as well as education scholarship to their children. Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The alleged sub-commander of ISIS-linked Maute Group, leader Abu Dar, Alim Mana Sandab, surrenders to the authorities along with another terrorist. According to Task Force Ranao, Deputy Commander Colonel Romeo Browner Jr., the two surrendered on Tuesday following an intensified military intelligence gathering and continued cooperation with the local community.
Tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung operations na ginagawa natin. At yun nga, we are coupling yung combat operations natin with intelligence operations.
Some senators are looking to increase the funds of the local government units to effectively fight crimes and the spread of illegal drugs. But an opposition lawmaker believes this move will only worsen the crime rate in the country. Let's find out why from Nel Maribuhok.
Several senators are backing President Rodrigo Duterte's order to the Department of the Interior and Local Government to audit the performances of local officials in relation to the administration's intensified campaign against crime and illegal drugs. According to Senate Local Government Committee Chairman Sani Angara, he is currently pushing for the passage of proposals seeking to empower LGUs and increase their funds to effectively curb crime and proliferation of illegal drugs in barangays. To date, there are 11 bills filed in the Senate looking to amend the LGU code and to include the value-added tax on imported goods collection by the Bureau of Customs on the computation of Internal Revenue Allotment or IRA. This is aside from the measures seeking to increase the IRA to 50% from 40% share. According to Senator Angara, appropriated LGU funds are misled to support other programs for their constituents based on their consultations. Available data show that 40% of 41,902 barangays receive IRA of 1 million pesos or less. But Senator Antonio Trillanes IV nixes the move, saying this might only bring negative effects to the local communities. He also slams Duterte's proposal to arm village officials and watchmen.
Walang purpose ito but just to promote the culture of violence, the culture of death. After arming them, hikayati niya itong barilin nyo, yung mga suspetsyon nyo na adik o kriminal.
Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
Malacanang says it is open to any congressional probe on its campaign against loiterers violating ordinances. Meanwhile, the government is now studying the possibility of arming barangay officials. Let's find out why from Rosalie Cos.
So we welcome the congressional investigations. And we welcome also challenges before the Supreme Court. The President has said so.
This has been the response of Malacanang to calls for an investigation into the controversial policy of the government to arrest loiterers found violating city and municipal ordinances. It can be recalled the opposition bloc in Congress called for a probe into the issue after the death of an arrested loiterer while in jail. Roque even encourages the administration's critics to file a petition before the Supreme Court to stop this policy. Meanwhile, Malacanang also says it is studying the possibility of allowing barangay officials to carry guns. President Rodrigo Duterte recently proposed to give caliber 22 guns to barangay officials and reserve officers training course graduates for self-defense. Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque says the proposal will undergo thorough study before implementing it nationwide.
So, hayaan po natin na mag-usap-usap ang iba't ibang sangay ng gobyerno tungkol dito.
Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The Philippine National Police relieves 3 of its cops assigned in Manila Police District's anti-crime unit following complaints from the drug suspects they allegedly captured. Asher Cadapan Jr. tells us why.
National Capital Region Police Office Chief Guillermo Eleazar reprimands these 3 police officers who were caught in an entrapment operation jointly launched by the Manila Police District and Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency last night.
PO lahat. Kung kailan tumaas ang sweldo,
PO1 Radam Reyes Manglikmot, PO1 Edmar Dalusong Kayanan, and PO1 Jeff P. Macapagal Calaguas were nabbed for posting as PIDEA agents and for extorting money from the 9 drug suspects, including 2 minors they allegedly captured in UN Avenue on Tuesday. The 3 cops allegedly propositioned the drug suspects to pay 300,000 pesos in exchange for their release. But the complainants haggled until they settled in the amount of 50,000 pesos.
Kasi kinausap ko yung asawa ko. Sinabi ng asawa ko, saan ka? Sabi ko, bawal kasing sabihin. Habang sinasabi ko yung binubulong ako ng pulis, sabi niya, etong sabihin mo. Ang sabihin mo sa kanya, kumpletuhin mo na yung pera, tatawag tayo ulit. Ganun ang sabi niya. Sabi ko, tinatanong niya kung saan ako. Ang sabihin mo, nasa PIDEA ka.
But the victim's husband sought the help of PIDEA and MPD to entrap the suspects upon confirming that his wife was not really arrested by the agency. The 3 were caught in the act of receiving the money from the victim's husband.
All of them will be subjected to pre-charge investigation for possible administrative case against those who were arrested, including the station commander. But definitely criminal case for robbery extortion will be filed.
The police officers have been relieved from their assignments in MPD Station 5 Anti-Crime Unit as they face investigation, along with Station Commander, Police Superintendent Emery Abating for command responsibility. The PNP is also investigating other personnel involved in the case. Asher Cadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Former Supreme Court Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno is open to the idea of running for public office. In an interview, Sereno, however, notes that she still has to think it through. She says she also considers joining cause-oriented groups that push for change in the country. The Consultative Committee, or CONCOM, plans to give the Office of the Ombudsman the power to suspend corrupt government officials under the federal form of government. CONCOM explains the move would help speed up the investigation and prosecution of corrupt cases and prevent delays in its resolution.
Under Section 9, the Federal Ombudsman Commission is also empowered to preventively suspend any officer or employee under its authority pending an investigation if in the judgment of the Ombudsman the evidence of guilt is strong and the charge against such officer involves dishonesty, oppression, or gross misconduct.
The proposal of the Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, to provide 200 pesos subsidy to minimum wage earners would not push through this year. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III made the proposal to aid workers affected by the rising prices of goods. Malacanang says it will still study the proposal, noting it's not yet part of the government's fund for this year.
It has to be discussed and examined, no? Kasi Siyempre, no, nagtataas tayo ng buwis dahil may mga proyekto na paggagastusan. Pero kung magbibigay na naman tayo ng benepisyo, ibig sabihin na naman yan, saan natin kukunin yung ibibigay natin na 200 pesos.
Darlene, Basingan, UNTV News and Rescue.
To complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continue. Here are the top stories. The Sugar Regulatory Administration is confident that prices and supply of sugar will normalize in July as imported sugar from Thailand will start arriving next week. The Department of Trade and Industry earlier reported rising prices of raw and refined sugar of up to 10 pesos each kilogram in local market due to low supply. The SRA notes local sugar production declined by 15% this month compared to the same period last year, just as the demand rose after drinks sweetened by high fructose corn syrup were taxed 12 pesos per liter under the Tax Reform for Acceleration and Inclusion or TRAIN law. The agency also says the importation of 200,000 metric tons sugar is less likely to affect local producers since this is only meant to address the drop in supply.
Ang mangyari kasi malaki yung volume, paunti-unti ito sa umpisa ng first week ng July may parating na. Kasi hindi sabay-sabay yung pag-apply ng mga sugar traders.
The fate of the Health Department's project to put up barangay health stations remain uncertain amid the investigation on the alleged irregularities in its procurement process. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III says the continuation of the project will depend on the outcome of the ongoing probe by the Commission on Audit and the Office of the Ombudsman. Duque also admits lapses on the side of the government in terms of the locations for the BHS units, especially in elementary schools nationwide. Meanwhile, the project's contractor, J Brothers, has petitioned DOH to pay for the 250 erected units. However, Duque disapproves such claims, saying there are only 8 units with completed documents and the DOH cannot release payment with only such number.
Batay sa amin validation, parang 270 lang ang kompleto, pero sa 270 parang wawalo lang ang may kompletong dokumento sa ngayon.
Kaya nga progress billing. So kung hindi natatapos namin, yun yung babayaran. Ngayon, yung sinasabi na 8 lang na natapos na kompletong dokumento, nasaan yung sulat nila na nagsasabing sinabihan nila kami na 8 yan?
Duque also admits it would be regretful if the project would be aborted because it would augment the shortages of health services, especially in far-flung communities in the country. Passengers in the Ninoy Aquino International Airport Terminal 1 will soon be treated to more modern bridges as they board or disembark their flights. According to Manila Airport Authority General Manager Ed Monreal, 9 modern aero bridges are set to be open to passengers to improve service and for the safety and convenience of air travelers. Monreal notes the old passenger bridges that connect the airport walkway to the aircraft has been in use since the 1970s. The official adds the 9 units is just part of the Phase 1 and 11 more are expected to be delivered from China next year. The project costs about 300 million pesos.
That's more than 30 plus years. Tapos madalas na rin minsan madalas na rin nagbabagdan yung iba-ibang mga bridge natin at nakakaroon ng pag-aantala sa pag-dating at pag-alis ng mga pasahero.
Only 1 out of 4 Filipinos is aware of federalism being pushed by President Rodrigo Duterte. According to a new survey released today by the social weather stations, 25% of Filipino adults have been aware of the federal system and 75% only knew about it upon answering the survey. The polls also shows that 37% agree with federal system, 29% disagree, while 34% are undecided. Awareness was highest in Mindanao at 37%, followed by Metro Manila, Visayas, and Luzon. Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque says, with the survey results, the government needs to exert more effort in informing the public of the proposed new government system.
Well, apparently, the information drive is not enough. We'll need to work harder, given that the shift to federalism is a cornerstone of the Duterte administration.
Malacanang believes that the Catholic Church is not behind the alleged destabilization plot against President Rodrigo Duterte. This is contrary to the accusation recently made by Boy Sison, an administration ally and one of the members of the committee created by the president to talk to the religious groups. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque notes he needs to brief Sison on the standard operating procedures of Malacanang in providing statements to the public.
Hindi yun ang iniisip ng government na distab efforts yung ginagawa ng simbahan?
Hindi po. In the first place, kampante po ang presidente sa kanyang pananampalataya, kampante ang simbahan sa kanilang mission sa bayang ito. Ang ninanais lang natin para yung dalawang institusyon ay makapagsilbi na mas mabuti para sa ating lipunan.
Roque also explains Duterte might not be able to attend the short-notice invitation of the papal nuncio tomorrow, but he will be represented by a four-man panel instead. The Department of the Interior and Local Government assures that persons responsible in the bloody misencounter in Santa Rita, Samar will face appropriate charges. The DILG Secretary Eduardo Año also vows no cover-up in their ongoing investigation and that they will implement measures to ensure no reoccurrence of similar incident. On Wednesday, members of the Board of Inquiry of the Philippine National Police and Special Investigation Task Group inspected the area where policemen and soldiers exchanged fire. Initial investigation shows that the nearest soldier who fired against a policeman was situated around 12 to 13 meters away based on the recovered bullet shells.
Hindi na ganun yung original na itsura nung pwesto or yung level ng visibility. May part na medyo mare-recognize mo, may mga parts kung saan na-recover yung mga shells ay medyo hindi.
Meanwhile, some of the policemen who survived the misencounter says the military should have been able to identify them as they were wearing uniforms.
Sobrang lapit lang. Diyan kami nakapuesto bago magsimula yung putukan. Imposible yun na hindi kami makilala. Kasi yung iba, yung bandolier may nakalagay na pulis.
Sumisigaw ako na parang pang takot na lang din sa kabila na forward! Forward! Putok! 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 Walang aalis. Dito lang. Kasi pag umalis kami doon, papagpakan lang kami. Parang inoffer lang yung mga sarili namin para patayin.
And for the news abroad, here is Jovic Vermas from London, United Kingdom. Jovic, good evening.
Good evening, Diego. Moscow and Washington have agreed to hold a long-delayed summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russia's Vladimir Putin. The announcement follows a meeting between President Putin and U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton. Trump says his meeting with Putin could take place in Helsinki after next month's NATO summit in Brussels. He says he will discuss the war in Syria and the situation in Ukraine with his Russian counterpart. Trump and the Russian president last met in Vietnam in November on the sidelines of an Asia-Pacific summit. A humanitarian ship that has had about 230 rescued migrants on board for almost a week docks in Malta on Wednesday, ending a standoff with Italy, which refused to let the ship into one of its ports. Maltese Prime Minister Joseph Muscat says 7 European Union countries had offered to share the burden of the migrants with Malta. Muscat adds that permitting the ship to dock in Malta was a one-time or ad hoc resolution to the standoff. While 650,000 migrants have arrived in Italy by sea since 2014, Malta has allowed in only those needing urgent medical care. The ship will be detained and the captain questioned because of its refusal to leave the migrant boats to be intercepted by the Libyan Coast Guard as ordered by Italian authorities. Thousands of residents in parts of Colombia, China, and Greece flee their homes as local authorities rush to send aid and evacuate others to safety. Kath Carriedo tells us why.
In Colombia, heavy rains caused Orinoco and Meta rivers in eastern Colombia to overflow, affecting some 5,000 residents in Puerto Carreño. According to local media reports, Residents are being evacuated and taken to temporary shelters. Nevertheless, authorities have been persuading flood victims to go to homes of family and friends as spaces in shelters are running out. Local authorities are asking for aid to be sent to the area. In China, flash floods triggered by continuous downpours have caused immense damage to infrastructure and roads in southwest China's Sichuan province and northwest China's Gansu province in the past 2 days. On Tuesday in Sichuan, a river in Jiangxi County of Guangyan City surged due to the heavy rainfall and burst a section of the river levee, leaving a 30-meter-long breach. The river water flowed backward into some communities in nearby townships. The local government immediately evacuated 1,500 affected residents to safe areas. In Qingxi County of Gansu, the floods destroyed a sole road out of a village on Monday. Firefighters finally evacuated more than 20 trapped people to a safe area. And in Greece, streets flooded and sticky brown mud covered the homes of Greeks living in the town of Magula, about 24 kilometers west of Athens, on Wednesday after heavy rainfall caused the flash flood to carry in through its neighborhoods. Magula residents said they were powerless to stop the rush of the flood waters, which came pouring over the hills in 2 separate torrents into their homes within minutes. While residents cleaned their homes and streets, the nearby entrance to the highway to Athens flooded and was temporarily closed, causing traffic snarls, while other vehicles were left stranded in parking lots, whose asphalt in some parts had broken from the force of the flood. More than 100 firefighters with 64 vehicles were called to the scene. Kath Carriedo, UNTV News and Rescue.
Those are the news from the other parts of the globe. Back to you, Diego.
Thank you, Jovic Vermas from London, United Kingdom. A French company eyes deploying its pizza robots next year that will challenge traditional pizzaiolos worldwide. But the chef believes there's no way for robots to adapt to the art of making pizza. Leslie Longbowen tells us why.
Are robots about to take over the worldwide famous culinary art of pizzas? This is what French startup Ekim believes with its brand new concept of a pizzaiolo robot. Usually seen in factories, this robot is capable of spreading tomato sauce on the pizza base, put the pizza in the oven, take a cardboard box, and cut the pizza. The robot gestures have been synchronized on those of a real-life pizzaiolo, from the art of spreading the dough to the technique of putting oil and pepper on top of a steaming pizza. Able to perform several tasks at once with its 3 arms, inventors say the pizza-making robot can deliver a pizza every 30 seconds and up to 120 an hour, when a simple human reaches at best 40 pizzas an hour. But it's not all about being fast. All the ingredients offered to the customers are organic and carefully selected in France and Italy.
Donc la robotique permet vraiment de personnaliser. Robots allow customers to personalize their pizza at any time of the day, even up to 2 a.m. This is something quite amazing and new, which can't be done in fast food or traditional restaurants. Quelque chose, une expérience est totalement nouvelle.
The robot pizza hasn't left its showroom just outside Paris, but Ekim is currently looking for a place in French capital to install their autonomous restaurant and plan to franchise their concept as soon as 2019 for it to cross the French border into Europe and the rest of the world. But at the Osha Pizzeria in central Paris, the chef is made of flesh. Neapolitan-born and bred, Vittorio Monti has golden hands, and the pizzas that come out of his oven are as close as it gets to pizza heaven. His art, he says, cannot be reproduced by a robot.
The human being is faster. He can tell if the dough is good or not, if there are any problems with the dough. The dough can have problems if the temperature changes. If there are any problems, the robot can't tell. But the pizzaiolo? Yes.
Although he admits a human being will always cost more than a robot, there's no way it can adapt to the living ingredients he uses every day. Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the reasons behind the news, June 28, 2018. On behalf of Darlene Basingan, I'm Angelo Castro III. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.